Well, you've heard of flex time, telecommuting, and job sharing. These are all standard arrangements in workplaces today. But surgeons can't operate at home. And trial attorneys can't decide when they feel like going to court. And accountants with clients overseas have to be available in the middle of the night to work with those clients. For many professions, rigid expectations and long hours make flexibility elusive and work-life balance very difficult. Now, the primary reason is because these professions are built around an assumption that every worker is an ideal worker. Ideal workers are those that give their lives to their jobs, and if they have any responsibilities outside of their jobs, they're attended to by somebody else, like maybe a wife. Ideal workers produce for very long periods of time over an entire career and provide very good value to their company. But the ideal worker assumption is in trouble. First of all, real careers rarely fit that model of the ideal worker. People have ups and downs in productivity. Life happens. Similarly, the ideal worker assumption is under tremendous strain because of the new people entering the workforce. As women have entered these professions, millennials and Gen Xers, they simply don't buy into this ideal worker model at all. The result is a collision between the workplace culture and what professionals want. This collision between the expectations of the workplace and the careers that entering professionals envision produces serious costs to these businesses. Here's one example. One academic medical center estimated that 5% of its budget was spent every year in replacing physicians who left the hospital system. At my university, that is $100 million. Another example comes from the field of public accounting. Turnover at a Big Four public accounting firm is horrendous. They lose 25% of their accountants staff every year. Every year, 25% of their accounting staff leave. And that eats up a whopping 81% of their profits. Clearly something is wrong in these two sectors. When good professionals, when valued professionals leave early in their career, that is costly for businesses. And the ideal worker model can be blamed for a lot of the attrition that I just talked about. People who want to have fulfilling careers find that the behavior expected of them, rigid expectations and long hours, simply don't fit what they had always thought about as a fulfilling career. Now, increasingly, these professions are responding to the changing ethos of new workers by changing their mindsets. Instead of a sprint throughout a long career, these professions are now thinking about their professionals as engaged in a marathon. Over the entire arc of a decades-long career, people can slow down, speed up, just as every marathoner has a different strategy for finishing the game, so too do individuals have different strategies for a fulfilling career. Let me tell you about two such individuals. I know of a lawyer, her name is Jane, and Jane was really on the fast track in her law firm early on, and then she started having children. When her third child arrived, she quit her job to stay home with her kids. After a few years at home, she gradually started to work part-time with her firm, and within a few years she was back up to full-time, and then her career just took off. She started running at top speed and didn't stop. Her career culminated in appointment to a very high public office. So Jane did it her way, and not according to the ideal worker. Another example is Barry. Barry was a tenured faculty member at a small college. And while he enjoyed his classes and loved his work, he felt the itch that he really wanted to do more research. So he quit his tenured position, pulled up stakes, moved his family 1,500 miles away, and started over. As a research postdoc, he had to spend several years tooling himself up for the world of research, but after he did that, he landed a good job at a university and established a solid national reputation in his field and became a leader. So these two individuals typify the kinds of real careers that people have as they increase or decrease their effort over decades of work. Now, the ideal worker strategy assumption is not that easy to change. And so I want to talk about two professions that have really led the way in helping us think differently about what our professionals do. The first of these is public accounting. Public accounting is based on an apprentice model, whereby accountants start their jobs at the very early stage of accountants and then move through a series of tiers. And at each change in tier, they're either promoted or they're dismissed. It's an up or out decision throughout the career until you reach the partner stage, at which point you're there for life. Now, accounting has changed quite a lot, and the demand for accounting is revving up since the Enron scandal and the Wall Street fallout of 2008. Now, more than half of all undergraduate and master's degrees in accounting go to women. And as women and millennials move into the Big Four accounting space, they may not want what the ideal worker assumption is. So a couple of public accounting has to compete with each other for access to good workers. And surveys of finishing students show that the most important thing on everybody's mind who's looking for a job in accounting is, of course, compensation. We all want to be paid well. But the second most important thing is work-life flexibility. So in order to respond to the desires of entering professionals, these corporations are forced into rethinking the ideal worker model. Let me tell you how two of them are doing that. The first is Ernst & Young. Ernst & Young has a program called Career Watch. By this program, committees are set up that watch everybody's progress throughout the firm. These committees make sure that every individual has challenging work, has equal access to promotions, equal access to travel opportunities and the like, and make sure that everybody's career stays on track. Since the inception of this program 10 years ago, they have seen a large increase of women who make it up to partner, and those women are much more productive than historically has been the case. A different model comes from Deloitte & Touche, another Big Four public accounting firm. Their mass career customization model takes a different strategy. They work specifically with managers of professional staff, and they train the managers on flexibility options. The managers then engage in a dialogue with their professional staff and work out a career plan for each accountant that makes sure that not only is the accountant's wish for flexibility seen to, but clients' needs are satisfied as well. Since this program went into place, employee satisfaction has skyrocketed, and Business Week has named Deloitte & Touche the #1 place to launch your career. Now, a different profession, which has also thought very deeply about the ideal worker model, is the field of academic medicine. Academic medical centers train future doctors, both medical students and residents. They take care of patients, and they engage in research. Academic medical centers rely on a large cadre of physician faculty to do all that work. It's really important work. Academic medical centers also compete with the private sector for those physician faculty. So in order to attract physician faculty, they have to understand what it is that medical students want in a career. And what medical students want, we now know very clearly, is they want specialties that have controllable hours, specialties like dermatology, like ophthalmology, like pathology. These residencies are highly competitive and highly sought after. Much less attractive and much less competitive are other kinds of specialties, such as OBGYN, surgery, and emergency medicine. These specialties have uncontrollable hours. Those babies are going to come when they want to come. And they are much less attractive to finishing medical students. So as a result, academic medical centers have to think really hard about how are they going to attract millennials and women given the face of what they want. Now, even those medical schools that are successful in attracting faculty have a real hard time keeping them. These physician faculty vote with their feet, and half of them leave within 10 years of their first appointment. Over the last 20 years, the sheer number of physician faculty who have left their jobs has doubled. So academic medical centers have really had to think hard about what their expectations are of their faculty and why they have this attrition. Studies show that clearly the two major reasons why physicians leave is because of the long hours and the lack of any real flexibility. Well, putting flexibility into an academic medical center requires thinking differently about what it is that physicians do. And there's two specialties in particular that have really led the way in challenging that thinking. The first is pediatrics. Pediatrics as a discipline has developed guidelines for pediatrics departments in academic medical centers, and they strongly recommend not only residencies that are part-time, but also faculty positions that are part-time. As a result, today, 40% of all pediatrics departments offer part-time residencies, and 90% have part-time faculty. So pediatrics really gets work-life balance. Perhaps it has something to do with working with children. The other specialty that has really been very active in this domain is internal medicine. Internal medicine is a very large specialty, and the Society of General Internal Medicine also has worked closely with its departments around the academic medical centers to try to develop ways for them to have part-time positions. In fact, internal medicine is the only society that offers a residency that requires part-time status. Another kind of innovation is at Stanford University, where their biomedical career customization program is explicitly modeled on the Deloitte and Touche program. Well, chipping away at the ideal worker model turns out to have some really important downsides that we have to recognize. Individuals who take advantage of flexibility report that they feel unappreciated, they are overlooked for opportunities for advancement and really challenging work, and in general are treated like second-class citizens. The reason why is because of the prevailing culture. The prevailing culture is still based on the ideal worker, and until we can change that culture, individuals who take advantage of flexibility policies will experience what we call flexibility stigma, the kickback from their colleagues. Fortunately, there's some really promising results on the horizon. If we think back to this ideal worker model, building in flexibility throughout the career becomes more important. And in fact, the primary group that is leading the charge for flexibility are older workers who also want more flexibility as they experience elder care issues, as they're thinking about retiring but don't want to retire fully. So as older workers start taking advantage of policies that were designed to help younger workers, they are mainstreaming flexibility as opposed to just tolerating it. So this is the real challenge for these high-profile professions, is not to just tolerate flexibility, but to make it part of the everyday culture that exists in their workplaces. Those that do will find themselves much more successful than their competitors that adhere to an outmoded and very costly ideal worker model. Thank you very much.